Okay, still on working with basic shapes. You see we have explored using arc. I'm going to close this arc design, and please notice for our arc, for the data file that I've shared with you, I don't know if you guys have seen it on your WhatsApp groups. I have shared the data set, the zip file. You need to extract it, and then so that you can do exactly what I have on my screen there. You can have it on your own screen from that side. So when I close this file now, it will ask me, do you want to save? Most of the time I don't save. But after you've done something on this page that you want to have a copy of, you should save as yourself. Do you know how to save as? I simply go to my application menu and then click on what save as. That means you can save a copy of this same file with your design changes and everything. Well, it will not affect the original file. So I don't want it to affect the original. I don't want it to create a design that affects the original file. So you don't have to save. You can just save as if you need a copy of what you've done. For some assignments, you'll be asked to work on so file. What I'm expecting you guys to do is to save as, and then so that when you open it on your system, I'll be able to see whatever you've done. Are you with me? Yes. So that we don't have data file changed. So what I want to do is I'll close my hack. I will not save. I'll go to my file. I'll open again. And then this time I'm going to the first file on the list, which is called the Polyline. I'll open the Polyline, click on start. You can see under the file that we have there, we have start, we have completed. Can you see that? Did you see that? Let me open again. Can you see start? We have completed. Completed is the end product of what we are trying to do. So if you are trying to have a glimpse of what is expected of you, you can open the computer to see. You understand? So if you open the computer and resave, so that you can show that you have done your assignment, I will know. I will get you. So always open the start, because that's where you want to do your action from. This is where you want to do your corrections from. Right? So you can see this plan that we have here. This is an illustration of a plan. This is like a warehouse, right? This is like a warehouse. We have the shipping and receiving section. We have the upper staging area. We have the lower staging area here. We have the spa, and then we have the RMA, right? Cool. What we are trying to use here, we are trying to play around with the Polyline command. Are you with me? And I'm going to be using one tool that I've not even mentioned so far, but I'll keep biting on them piece by piece, and then when we get there fully, we are going to explain everything about them. Are we good to go? So we are still on imputing data, creating objects, working with object snaps, and working with basic shapes. So what we are still talking on is Polyline, right? So on this Polyline, what we are trying to do is, you can see these single lines that I have here. When I select one of them, can you see these are line segments? When I go to the next one, can you see this is also a line segment? So this is not what I want. In fact, what I have below here is the final product of what I want. Can you see what I have below here? This is a polyline that I have here. Can you see it has a color to it? This is polyline with width that is giving us this. Immediately you see this, I believe that should come to your mind, that there is a polyline applied here with width. Are you with me? Yes. So now, what I want to do is, I want to create this other line segment to look like exactly what I have here in the lower staging area here. How do I go about that? All right. The approach is usually to what? There are different ways. AutoCAD is a very robust software. You can go ahead to achieve just one thing. You want to achieve just one thing, you can use different methods to do just one thing on AutoCAD. There are two methods I'll be talking to you about. Are you with me? I want to convert this line segment that I have here into a polyline. The first one that I have, that I believe everyone should know, can you see there's a gap in this window first? Yes. I don't want this gap. This is a mistake. I don't want this gap. So I can delete one of the line segment that is here. Can you see this line segment here? I'll delete this, and then you can see that line is not touching the other line here. Right? I will use a command that you don't know, but I'll just extend. I'll do what? Extend. Are you with me? So what did I do? Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. Let me even explain it. What I did was escape, 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 escape. There's a gap here. Can you see there's a gap here between the upper staging area and then the RMA here? I don't want this gap here, so I select the line itself. I click on delete key on my keyboard. Now the line is gone. But you can see this line is not touching this end point here. Are you with me? Okay, somebody is raising up their hand.
Yeah, what's the difference between extend and lengthen?
Extend and lengthen is okay. They work similarly, right? They work similarly, but extend will not work for your arc. Are you with me? Extend will not work for your arc. Extend, the way extend works, we'll get there. The way extend works is what is in front of it, you can have it as a reference. Immediately I go to my file, can you see the trim command here under this modifier here? Under the modify panel. When I click on the drop down, we have trim, we have extend. Are you with me? When I go to my extend command, immediately I select a particular line. It goes ahead. Can you see that it's touching the next one? I've not even clicked here too. I'm just placing my mouse on it. Can you see that? Is when I click, that is when I tell AutoCAD that this is what I want. Then it is done. Can you see that? I'll come down below here. I'll also do the same thing here. I'll say click and then it is done. Can you see that? It's now touching the line, right? A quick explanation for what you just asked. Let me do that. I don't really need to do that, but let me just go ahead. There's a rectangle here. We have two lines here. Can you see the two lines here? When I go to my extend, in fact, let me delete one of the line. Let me delete the two lines. I'll create the line at the center, but it will not be touching any of the parts. We have a line at the middle. What I want to do is I want to extend this line to touch this part of this drawing. Can you see that? What you should also notice is that with reference with the midpoint of this line, wherever the section of the line that you touch will determine if it's going to the right side or the left side. Are you seeing that? So if you are trying to extend this end and you are more at the right side, it will not extend that side for you. So you need to be on the part of the line you are trying to extend, and then immediately you click, it moves to the next line. Immediately you click, it moves to the next line. Are you with me? Now, my extend tool, now I'm trying to use it again. Can you see it's not extending to any part? I'm trying to extend again. It's not working. Can you see there's a cross icon there on that box? Why am I having that? Because your extend tool work with reference. For example, that means I need to have a reference line in front like this. Immediately I have a reference line that is going to. Now when I activate my extend tool, it will now work. Can you see that? But without a reference point, your reference to your extend will not work. Do you not understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
If I go ahead to use the lengthening that we used the other time, did you have any extension point in front of it? No. All we just did was we selected the line we wanted to work on, we selected dynamic, and then we move our line to the angle we wanted.
The line was just moving
with us, with the crosshair. Is it making sense? Yes. So now, another thing is that your extend tool works only on a straight line. It will not bend. If I have a line like this, if I have a circle around here, or if I have another line like this, and I want this line to come and bend, to come and touch this line, it will not work. Are you with me? It will not work that way. So your lengthening just works, it works in 90 degrees. If it's completely horizontal or completely vertical or diagonal as well. Are you with me? We'll get to trim and extend proper. We'll explain everything about it. But these are just tools that we'll use them one way or the other while trying to create our design. What we want to do here is we are trying to create these segmented lines that we have here into a polyline, right? I told you there are two ways to achieve it. There are even more than two ways to achieve it, but I'm going to explain two ways basically. The first one that I have there is this. I'll go ahead to activate my polyline command. First, you can see this polyline, the lower staging area. How do we get the thickness of this polyline that is created here? How do we get them? There's a polyline here. We use our width, right? But there's something called the property tool. The property tool will help you to
Use what?
property. There's a tool called properties. It shows you, it gives you information of an object that is selected on the workspace. So it is called object property. Object property tool, what it does is it displays, it gives you a full detail of the current object that is selected on the workspace. It gives you the full detail of information that you need to know about them. The full detailed information you need to know about that shape that is selected. The first thing I want to activate here, please look at my screen. Who is with me? All right. Look at this tool that I have here. I want to select this polyline that is here, but when I'm trying to select, you can see that there is a line. Ctrl Z. I think I've deleted the line. Okay. There is a line. Can you see there's a line here? Did I explain something about my status bar when I did the introduction into this application? Did I talk to you about my status bar?
Yes.
Where is the status bar located? The status bar is located just below the command line that I have here. Can you see the status bar here? They are the section showing here. Everything that I have below here on this side. Can you see everything there? They are known as the status bar, right? So the first thing I want to do is, you can see I'm trying to select the polyline, but I'm selecting the one of the line. Can you see that I've selected the line here? But I don't want to select this line. I want to select a polyline, right? How do I shuffle? You can see we have line below this polyline, and then it's selecting one at a time. How do I do that? There is a tool on our status bar called the selection cycling. I'll go to this donut icon here. If you are not seeing it on yours, open this donut icon, and then you will see something called selection cycling. Can you see that? Yeah. Selection cycling. The selection cycling is this icon that I have here on the list. Can you see selection cycling here? How does it work? Before I go to my project again, I'll quickly open a section here. Create a rectangle. I will create a circle around that end as well. I'll create a circle around that end, and then I'll create something called, let me see, a line around this end. And then how does selection cycling work? Now that it's activated, to know that a command, a tool is working from your status bar, you need to see that blue area around it. Can you see that blue selection around it? Now, when I move to the object, I'm trying to select. Immediately I move my mouse to it. Can you see there's an icon showing along my crosshair? Can you see that? I don't know if you are seeing that on your own end. There's an icon that is showing. When I click, what happens? It gives me this option. AutoCAD is asking me, sorry, the object you are trying to select are overlaid. They are intersecting. Which do you want to select out of all these options that I have here? Is it the line? Is it the polyline? Can you see that? Yeah. So it's basically help you to simplify. Not that you select the line, you'll be like, no, this is not what I want to select. You want to select the rectangle, the rectangle that we have below it. Are you with me? For example, I want to select the line and arc, and then I'm trying to select it from the intersection. If I'm selecting just the line, it will not give you that icon. Can you see when I'm on only circle, you are not seeing that icon? But when I'm on any line that is intersecting, we always have that icon. And whenever you click, it will help you to shuffle them out. What do you want to select? Now, when I tell AutoCAD I want to select the circle, you see that the circle is the one that's going to be selected out of what is here. Is it making sense? Yeah. I'll select everything that I have here. Go ahead, please.
Okay, when you click on this one that are crossing each other.
Yeah.
You need to right click for you to get that.
No, I didn't right click. I just clicked left click on them, and then it brought out the option. I'll do that same thing here now. On this option that I have here, I have a lot of options showing on this list. So I'll click, and you can see that I have access to my line. Can you see that? But it's not my line that I want to select. I don't want my line. What I want to select is the polyline. Can you see now that my polyline is selected? Can you see that? Now, I'll now go to the option. When I now right click now, I see the list of what I can do here. What I need is the properties. Can you see the properties here? We have the quick properties, we have the property. When you go to quick properties, you only see a brief information of the object I selected. But this is not what I want. I want a detailed information. So I'll right click and go to what? Properties. And then you have this full information. Are you with me? So this is the full detail of the current object I have selected on the workspace. What am I looking for? You can see, how do I know? Can you say that the starting segment width 10, end segment width 10? That's telling you that this object is a polyline, and the starting width is what? 10. The end width is what? 10. Do we understand? I'll close this up. That means immediately I go to my polyline command. I'm starting my polyline command from this end here. Down, I can now click on W for my width, or I right click to go to my width command. The starting width is what? 10. The ending width again is what? 10. Now, can you see that I have this line following my design? Now, I can now click again to specify this corner. I come down here to specify this corner. I come down here to specify this corner. Who is with me? And then I right click to click on what? Close. When I click on close, it goes back to the starting point. Have I been able to create a polyline around this shape? Yes. The next thing I want to do is this other one, this sparse section here. I'll go ahead again, activate my polyline command. I told you by default, if you have changed the width of your polyline, it will remember that width. Do you remember?
Yes.
When I click again to specify,
Go back and to 0, 0.
thank you very much, to return it back to the original state. So I'll click again, I continue. Since that's the same width that I need for this design, I continue. I'm creating my line. But unlike just closing it here, I want to make adjustment to this design. I want to show that I know how to use polyline. So I'll right click, I go to my hack. Now I'm connecting my design here. After when I'm done with my command, it's still active. How do I end the command? I simply go to my what? Enter key, escape key, or spacebar. Are we good to go? Now we have created for RMA section and then the sparse section. Should we proceed? For the upper staging area now, I'll go back to my polyline again. I start from this end. I go to this end here. I come down to this end. Close it at this end. And then I can right click to what? Close. Are we making progress? Yeah, now the last section, which is the shipping and receiving section, I'll be using the second method of creating our what? Polyline. Are you with me? Today we are talking about these two panels. Don't forget the draw panel and then the what? The modify panel. Every object I've been working on so far, I'm jumping from here to this section, right? I've been jumping from the draw panel and the modify panel. I've been shuffling between them. The commands that I've been using so far, right? Now we are going to another command now. The command that I'm talking about is called, now that we have a sketch, we have lines already representing this shape here. We are now drawing a polyline over that line to create our polyline. Meanwhile, we can actually make these our lines that we have here, make them into a polyline. You ask me how? We already have the existing line that we have here. We already have the existing line showing the plan. Instead of creating a polyline over this line here, we can actually convert this line into a polyline. How do we do that? There are two methods to do that. The first method is basically, I don't want us to work on our project. I'll create a rectangle here, right? I'll create another rectangle with our line here. Are you with me? These two rectangles are here. The first one is made with what? A polyline, which is a rectangle, and the second one is made using what? The line. Can you see it's broken? If I want to convert this line segment that we have here into a polyline, there are two methods to do that. I will duplicate this object so that I can do it twice. All right. So the first one is here, the second one is here. Can you see that? Okay. The first one that we are working on is this one here. The first option that we have to join our objects together is this option that we have. Under modify, we have something called join. Can you see? We have something called join. Can you see a command called join? When I click on this command, I'm able to select the first line, the second line, the third line, and then the fourth line. Immediately I'm done, I click on what? Enter on my keyboard. By default, AutoCAD will convert this into a polyline. Can you see that? Are you with me?
Yeah.
The other option that we have there is called the what? Polyline edit. Please note these things down as please, if you have to note down, if you are good with writing notes.
The first one is what? Sorry.
The first one is called the join command. The first one is join command. The second one is what? Polyline edit.
Polyline what?
Polyline edit. Are you with me? Yeah. So when I go to this same modify, because whenever you want to modify a shape or an object on your workspace, that means the object must have been created, right? We only modify an object that has already been created. You can't modify something that we have not created, right? So we want to modify. Whenever you notice that what you are trying to do is to make changes to a design that you've made, you should know that everything that you are trying to look for should be inside this section here. Are you with me? Immediately you know that you are trying to create a shape, something new, something that is not there before. You know that you are using your draw panel. Now, what I want to do here is my P-edit. And the P-edit icon is what I have here. Can you see edit polyline? On the shortcut, you can see P-edit. Are you with me? When I click on P-edit, this works differently compared to your join. Can you see when I click on P-edit, it brings out these loads of options for me. I have the open, I have the join, I have the width, I have the edit vertex, I have all these options. But what I'm concerned with is what? Join. Can you see join here? You'll be like, why am I using join when I can just use that other join there? Well, you see the difference here now. When I click on join, escape, what I want to do is first is to select the first line that I want to work on, right? And then let's go to modify. I go to my P-edit, and then it will ask me a question. Look at my command line. There's a question being asked. Do you want to turn this object into one? That means, are you trying to group objects into one? Are you trying to make it into a polyline? That's what it's asking us. And is that what you are trying to achieve? Is it yes or no? If it's yes, you click on Y. If it's no, you click on N. You can see the option that I have here is Y, right? I click on Y and I click on Enter on my keyboard. Immediately I do that, I select Join. Now it gives me access to select the remaining line. 1, 2, 3. I can even select the original line that I have here. It does not make any difference. When I select the line again, I click on what? Enter on my keyboard. And then you see this option again. Why is it showing you this option? Because you can do more. If I click on enter again, the command will be terminated and the shape has been created. Can you see that? But this is not what I want to do. I'll Ctrl Z. Can you see my line is segmented now? What I want to do now is I'll go to I'll select a line out of the shape that I'm trying to group together. I'll go to my modify tool, go to my P-edit, which is what my polyline edit. Now it's asking me that question again. Do you want to turn it into one? I'll click on Y, I'll click on enter. That's yes, enter. Then I'll now go to what? Join. I can select the first line, second line, third line, and then the fourth line. Immediately I'm done selecting the lines that I want to join together, I click on what? Enter. And then it's giving me other options. What else do you want to do? It has been joined already, no doubt. It has been joined already now. It's giving me other options. I want to add what? Thank you very much. When I click on width now, I enter the width of what? 10. Immediately, they all use the width of 10. Do you see the difference now? It's even giving me more options. Are you seeing that? So this polyline is the detailed one. You understand? It gives you more advanced tool that you can use on your polyline. Unlike the join. The join will just connect it together and that's all. It's done with its own job. Are you with me? If I go back to this guy now, and for AutoCAD, we have the way forward and then we also have the undo. You can do and undo using this software. That means every object that is not grouped, that is not seen as a polyline, can actually be made as a polyline, even when it was created using line segments, right? So a object that is created using a polyline that is grouped together can actually be made a separate line as well. We should have that feature that can help us to separate these lines and then make them into a single line. Do you agree? And then the option that can help us to do that is this option that is above our offset command that we used earlier. Can you see the command? What is the name of the command? Explode. Immediately I click on explode, the object returns back to its original state. Ctrl Z. This object is seen as a what? Polyline, right? On AutoCAD, you can first select the command first. You can go to the command and select the command first, and then come and select the object you want to use it on. Are you with me? And then you just click on enter, and then it is done. Can you see that? Or you can decide to what? Select the shape that you are trying to work on, and now go to the command. It will also work that way for you. Is it making sense? So even this one that has width, can you see this object? There is width to it. If I want to break it apart, all I need to do is go to my explode command, and then I click once. This object returns back to its original state. I am expecting a question. All right. The Ctrl Z. This object has width to it before, but when we click on explode, it didn't break it apart, leaving the width. That was the question I was expecting. Yes. When it exploded, it didn't leave the width. It turned it back into a stable, a normal line. Why? Because anything called line on AutoCAD is not supposed to have width by default. Are you with me? And immediately I'm converting this shape from the polyline, I'm returning it back to a line command. It will take off the width by default automatically. Are you with me? So if you know you want to add your width, just use your normal offset, and then you can work around your offset, or you use your width directly and leave the object as a polyline. But like I said, every design choices that you make is according to whatever you are trying to achieve in your mind. Do you understand? Or whatever project task that you have in front of you that you are trying to achieve, it will usher you into the kind of tool you are going to go to use. Is it making sense? Now I'll go into my project again, because I'm using this simple method to explain the two before we jump into the full project, so that we don't have any confusion. Do we like that approach? All right, so what I want to do now is I want to use my P-edit. I'll just go to my line. I'll go to my line command that I have here. I'll make sure my line is selected. Can you see I've selected the line, the long line here? Yeah, now that the line is selected, I'll go to my modify, I'll go to my P-edit. Now it will give me that option again. Do you want to turn it into one? I click on Y for yes. What do I want to do? I want to join. I'll select the remaining 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Immediately I'm done selecting, I click on what? Enter. And then it brings out that option again. Are you done? No, I'm not done. I want to add the width to this shape. Are you with me? I select the width, and then I enter what's the width size? I click on what? 10. And then automatically the object is created with the width of what? 10. It will still bring out this option. The way you can do that is just click on enter on the keyboard to take it off. Are we good to go? Why is it blue? Thank you very much. I was expecting that question. Why is it blue? You know that the line that was created earlier was on a particular layer. The layer that we draw this object on is the border layer. Can you see the bright green layer? Yeah. That's the border layer. This other blue color that we have here, when I click on this drop down, you can see is the warehouse. Can you see that? How do I make changes? How do I make these changes? How do I convert it into this bright green layer? I simply select the object that I'm trying to convert. I go. Can you see when I select it? What are you seeing up here? Warehouse. Ctrl Z. I will escape. Let me select the spar. What is it showing here? Let me select the this in shipping and receiving again. What is it showing? Warehouse. You can see that is according to layer. This is layer panel, right? We are not supposed to talk about this today, not at all. You understand? But because you asked that question, let me just quickly convert it. To convert this shape into this bright green color that we have, I'll simply select the object that we have on our workspace, click on this drop down and go to the layer that I want. And we are back. Is it making sense so far?
Yeah.
Are we good to go? Thank you very much. All right, what we have been able to do so far is working with Polyline, converting our design, the different line segment that we have into Polyline. Are we good to go? All right. Now, we are done here. We are done here already, but I want to emphasize something. You can see this text that we have here. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Can you see that? But I don't want that. I can't leave this design, leaving this. I can't leave this plan here, leaving these designs this way. I need to make the correction. How do I do that? I'll select one of the object that is here. Can you see the object that is here? I'll go to my what? I'll select the other text. Can you see that?
Are you selecting all of them? Are you holding control?
I'm not holding control on my keyboard. I'm just clicking on one of them, one after the other. Can you see that? That's the selection method. Selection method, out of the selection method in the first day, you just click, that's in, what is it called? Individual selection method. You click one object at a time, and then it is selected. How do you know? Escape. My crosshair is currently not active, right? I select the first one on the list. Immediately it is selected, I just move my mouse to the next one. You can see it's showing plus. That means AutoCAD is asking, should I add this to it? Then I click on yes. Add it to it. When I move it to this next one again, can you see it's asking me plus? Add this to it again, add this RMA to it, add this part to it again. Now all these texts are selected. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? The text size, one is bigger. I want to make sure they are even, right? Do I right click and then go back to that my friend again? What do I call the name of that friend? Properties. When I go to properties, can you see under text, unlike your Microsoft Office, when you want to change the font size, it is called font size, right? Or font, it is called font size or text size. This is not text size. This is called, on AutoCAD, it is called text height. Are you with me? When I go to text size, you can see the option is showing varies. What does that mean? It's telling you that the text size is different. Thank you very much. Then I can now enter, I can now click on that vary now and then enter a dimension in my mind. Let me enter 30 and I click on enter. Immediately I do that, what happens to the design that I have on my workspace? All of them align, uniformity happens. Can you see that? Let me pan my design to the side. Do you remember how to pan?
Yes, whatever will press it.
Your scroll wheel, you click on it, or you go to this our friend here. If you don't want to go to that our friend, you can right click and you always see when you don't have any command on, there's always pan on this list here. But because I have the property command on, it's still showing me this stage. Let's just leave that. I'll show you when we are done. Can you see it is still selected? The next thing I want to explain is this. You can see that this text, there's a dot in the center. On this text, the dot is not at the center, it's at the corner. This one is at the corner, top corner left, right? Top corner left. This one to top corner left. Why? Because this is talking about the justification. Can you see the justification as well? It's also showing varies because it's different. I'll select this, but this one we are not entering 30 or 40. There's a drop down arrow beside it. Can you see that? When I click on the drop down arrow, can you see top align, top center, top right? Immediately I click on, I want to use the middle center. When I click on middle center, what happens? Do they all have the same thing now? This is what I want to achieve. Is it making sense? I will click on this X icon to close this property panel. You see that you can do a lot from your property panel without going through stress. So I'm going to move this my spa, put it at the center, or just place it somewhere on my workspace. Place it somewhere on my workspace. Escape, I'm not making adjustments. We use what?
Justify.
We use justify and then we use text height under property.
Properties.
If somebody can just write property and then put an arrow beside it for what? Justification. and then text height. So that's that about that. Talking about what? Our draw panel. Are we good to go? Somebody who might ask me that, oh, this object is not aligned. This one is not at the center. This one is not at the center. How do we make it at the center? How do we put this object to make sure that it's at the center of this object here? I told you something. Did I explain something about we can move them? We can move them, but when I move this object here, you can see that I'm just using my head. I'm using my head to calculate. This should be the center. No. This should be the center. Can you see the staging area too? I'll click no plus or minus. I'm using plus or minus sign. The plus or minus does not work in design. You have to be precise. Are you with me? And I told you the status bar, the commands that we have, the commands that we have, the design tools that we have under status bar, all these helps. They help. Thank you. They help us to. They all help us to draw to precision. Are you with me? So if I want to move this RMA or this part section or the staging area, I want to put it at the center of this object. There is a tool that can help us to do that. There's something called object snap. Can you see my object snap? On this object snap, we have a lot of things. I explained this the last time as well. Do you remember anything from this section? The only way you remember when you are learning a design tool is by practicing, right? Is by what? Practicing. You remember that day after the class, I told you the best way to get anything out of what we have done today, which is the overview of the software, is you go back into your AutoCAD, play around everything we've mentioned on that class, in that class, and then make some changes. I'm expecting you to open your AutoCAD today and tell me that something has disappeared, something has opened, so that we can now start looking for a way to return it back to. While we do that, we learn. Is it making sense? So we can keep talking from here to 12 p.m. in the midnight. But when the true learning is done is when you go back to your own application on your own time. You open this application and then work on it yourself. Now, you try to use this tool, it's not moving. Because I already know how to move my tool, I'm moving around, it seems very easy now. But I'm telling you, when you open your own design, you try to do the same Polyline tool, you can start running into some issues if you are not careful. Is it making sense? What I'm trying to say is, I want you to practice on your own end, on your own time. Open this software, try to work with it. That is why we have the data set. So you don't have to create something out of the blue. You understand? Not that you have an empty workspace, you have to start creating the object yourself. No. You have the data set. Open one of them and then try to recap on what you have done so far. Is it making sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
All right, let's proceed. What I want to do now is to place this text at the center of this object. And I don't want to use guess, or I don't want to use a plus or minus, like they used to say. So what I want to do is put at the center. What object snap will help me to do that? On this object snap, we have a lot of things. We have endpoint, we have midpoint. What is object snap in the first place? When I go into my line, when I create a rectangle, on this my rectangle, when I select my rectangle, can you see we have different nodes around this object? We have different node points around this object. They are known as vertex points. Can you see that? When I'm not clicking, I'm just moving my mouse and then I place at one of the vertex points here. Can you see it's showing me stretch vertex? It's showing me add vertex. It's showing me remove vertex. If I click on remove vertex, it removes that vertex off. Are you with me? I didn't click. I just placed my mouse on that vertex. I didn't click at all. Are you with me? Because when I click, what happens? That means I want to drag. I want to change the position. But I'm not clicking. I just place my mouse on that vertex. And what happens? It shows me information. It's giving me information of what that vertex can do. I can stretch the vertex, I can add vertex, and I can remove vertex. But that's not what I'm talking to you about. I'm talking to you about object snap. Meaning this rectangle that we have here is seen as a polyline though, but there are endpoints to everything. You can see there's endpoint here. When I go to my line here, I'll deactivate everything that I have on my workspace here. I'll remove tangency, I'll remove quadrants, I'll remove center, I'll remove midpoint. I'll leave only endpoints on. And now I want to start my line command again. Immediately I over at my, can you see this green box that we are seeing around this object now? That is our object snap. It's showing what? It's showing us our what? Endpoint. Can you see that? Which object have endpoint? We have our line. Our line have endpoint because there is a start point and then the end point. When I go back again, you can see we have a start point, we have what? End point. Can you see that? The same thing goes for our polyline. Even for our arc, we have start point, we have end point. Can you see that? Start point, we have end point. Can you see that? But let's go to our circle. Do we have end point for our circle? We only have a midpoint. And that midpoint is not even a midpoint. When you talk about midpoint, we are talking about lines and arc. When we are talking about for circle, we have center point. Right? The center point of the circle, which is the origin. Right? Now, are we seeing any object snap showing on our circle at the moment? No. Are you with me? But let me go ahead again, go to my object snap, and then activate center. Immediately I touch on any part of my circle, what happened? Something come up. What is that thing? Center. Is it making sense? Is it making sense? And center applies not just to circle, it also applies to our arc and ellipse because they are all what part of a circle, right? Whenever I touch my arc as well, I have a center showing, right? But when I select my line, do I have a center showing? No. I don't have a center of a line. I don't have a center of a line. But what I have for a line is midpoint. Can you see that? I have a midpoint. When I go to my object snap this time and then locate the midpoint, can you see the midpoint? I activate my midpoint now and then let me go back to my line. It's now showing me something in the middle now. Can you see that triangle in the middle? Please, this is very, very important. These are precision tools. They help you to draw to precision. I'll go to my object snap here and then go to what? Object snap settings. It will bring out the dialog box for me. Can you see everything that we have on this left side? Everything from endpoint to intersection, they are known as the primary object snap modes. They are known as what? Primary object snap. Are you with me? On this, everything on this right side are known as what? The secondary object snap mode. The secondary what? Object snaps. Why do we call them primary? Why do we call them secondary? Are you with me? Yeah. The reason why we call them primary, the reason why we call them secondary, it is not the talk of today. It is what we are going to get exposed to as the class unfold. Are we good to go? Please, one advice I can only give to you today is only have the object snap that you want to have checked here is what you need. Immediately you have everything selected. You won't even enjoy yourself on design. That means you start having this dotted line showing around everywhere in your design, which is not what you want to have, please. You only have activated what you need. If I know that this design I'm trying to do, I need the midpoint of this object, I will clear everything that is here. I'll make sure I have the endpoint, midpoint, center. These are the basic codes that I use very often. Are you with me? I click on OK. So I have them here. They are the ones showing here by default. Are you with me? Now, what were we talking about before we move into object snap? Before I start talking about object snap, is because everything that I'm explaining so far, we are going to be needing them here. We need to locate the center of this object here. But if I go to my object snap, turn off everything I have on the list and leave only center on, will I be able to get the center of this shape? Let's try. I select the first one, the spar. Am I able to get the center? Is it showing me anything center here? Why? But we have activated our center on object snap. Why is it not working? Because it's not a circle and it's not an arc. All these objects that we have, these are geometric shapes, right? So what we need to have activated is what? Geometric center on our object. When I go to geometric center, can you see this? So geometric center is different from center. When I remove center and I leave it on geometric center, now I can, when I select my spar, touch on any part of my circumference, you can see this. When I touch on any part of my object, then you can see that dot in the middle, right? Then I can place it at that dot in the middle. The same thing goes for my RMA. I'll select the object first, locate the blue in the center. I'll click on that blue in the center to move the object around. Then to see my dots, I just need to touch a part of the shape and then the dot will appear. Are you with me? The same thing for the staging area. I click on the staging area, click on the box at the center to move the object around, but it's not showing me the center yet. I need to touch a part of the object and then the center is reviewed, then I can paste. Is it making sense now? Am I communicating? Now I can paste. Is it making sense? Thank you very much. So now that we have been able to align this text exactly at the center of these shapes, are we done? Are we good to go?
Yes.
Do you have any questions so far? Okay. So now,
Let's get rid of that line.
the blue line that we have below them,
Close to spell.
I can select the line and then click on delete key on my keyboard, and then it goes off.
Looks
Neater now. Yes, even under the lines that we've created earlier, the polylines that we've created earlier, there are still that lines there. Can you see we still have those lines hidden in the background? So I can still find a way to select them, delete them off, but you always do this on your own time. I don't want this to be part of our recording, me deleting lines, right? So we can always do this on our own end to what? Clean out the design, what we are not using. Is it making sense? Thank you. So now that we are here, one thing I want to emphasize after talking about object snap is something called the object snap tracking. Under the object snap, we all understand what these things are used for, right?
Yes.
We will explore them as we work on our project, as the class unfolds. We'll be referring to them often because these are tools we always need to draw to precision. Are you with me? So, as we have the object snap, there is a friend, or should I call a sidekick of object snap called the object snap tracking. It's just right beside it on the left side. Can you see the object snap tracking? I'll hover my mouse on it to display it now. The object snap tracking. It looks like the angled icon. Can you see that? It is called the object snap tracking. What is object snap? What is object snap tracking? I'll turn off object snap tracking and then I'll just use only object snap. On my object snap, I want to have midpoint, endpoint, center, and geometry. We can have those four on, no issues. Now, when I want to start my line command, I want to start my line command at the endpoint of this line. Can you see I'm able to do that because I have the what? Object snap on. Can you see showing me endpoint? And then I can start my line command, right? I will escape. By default, I'm very sure, definitely sure, without an ounce of doubt, I know that this object is starting exactly at that endpoint. It's like magnet. It helps you to magnet endpoint to endpoint. Are you with me? I want to start another line command again. I want to start it from this endpoint that is here. By default, immediately it shows that box for me. I don't have to doubt. The line is starting exactly at that endpoint. Are you with me? But now I will now go ahead again. Turn off my endpoint completely. Can you see that blue color is not showing over it again? Now I've turned it off completely. Now I'm a smart guy. I'm a professional. I've been using this software for over 15 years. So I know my precision very clearly. Maybe just to zoom in. I'm trying to zoom in now. Now I can see it very clearly. Now I'm precise. Can you see I'm precise here? And then I click to specify that endpoint and then I drag my line out. Don't doubt it. I'm telling the engineer that is beside me, don't doubt it. This is precise. The engineer is telling me to zoom into that endpoint. Can you see it's not precise? Without the object snap, snapping from one end to another end, you can't draw to precision. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, that engineer does not want to agree is wrong. I did a mistake. I was not very sure. But now I'm zooming very well. Let me go to my line command again. And then this is it. I'm very sure now. Immediately you drop that line, you click on escape to zoom in, you are not doing the right thing. Are you with me? Whenever you do your design and you see me zooming in and zooming out, I'm trying to look for some excuse not to take your design in. Are you with me? So you need to draw to precision. We are not here to play. Whenever whenever you are drawing, whenever we are working, we are drawing to precision. But unlike the other one that we use the object snap, let's zoom in. You can keep zooming in till eternity. Even when you zoom to, will tell you that you should stop zooming. Is to, can you see that it is locked at that end? There's no way you can, it's not moving around. Who is with me? Am I making sense? So you can see the importance of object snap and object snap. Right? That's the importance of object snap. Now let's talk about object snap tracking. Object snap tracking is now the other guy that is here by the side. Object snap tracking is like a subordinate, it's like a sidekick. That means object snap tracking is useless when object snap is not on. Are you with me? You can see that when we had object snap on, we are still able to track from endpoint to endpoint, right? Without the object snap tracking, right? And it was working. But now the object snap is not even on. Let me turn on the object snap tracking. I want to start my line command. Is anything working here? No, because you can see from the name it's called what? Object snap tracking. So we need object snap to be on for it to track. Are you with me? Now, why do we want to track? This is the question. I will now draw a line here. I want to close or delete everything I have here, just this section here. Why do we want to track? Now the object snap is not working without object snap. We all know that now, right? I will activate my object snap here on my screen. Are you seeing my screen? Now I activate my object snap on my workspace. I go to my line command. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to start a line. Immediately I take on my object snap. There's a green line that is following my line around. Now can you see that green line? Yeah. That is known as the object snap tracking. It shows that tracking line. Immediately I've touched the end point. There's a cross over it. Can you see? There will be immediately. Can you see the end point of this line at the moment? Free. When I put my crosshair on it, now there's a cross over it. Can you see that cross over it? That green cross. Yeah. Yes, that is to show my object snap tracking. Can you see? It's giving me a tracking line. Now what I want to do is I want to track from this end point. I want to track from this end point. And then it will show me the intersection of those two lines. Do you see that I didn't even have to draw a line before I was able to get the intersection of that two lines? So when I click now, I can start my line command and then create whatever I want to create from here. Knowing fully where that this object is situated, where? At that intersection of both sections. Is it making sense? Yeah. Do you agree with me? Yeah. All right. It's obvious. Thank you very much. So we have the object snap and object snap tracking. These two work hand in hand. You need to have both of them on. Are you with me? Now, let's proceed. We all know that creating our design, we work with unit. Right? We work with unit. It's either you do one of two things. Either you are working with impera scale, or you are working with what? The metrics scale. And from this part of the country, we are using the what? The metric scale. Do you agree? How do we do all these settings? We have been creating designs so far since we started this. How do we create these settings? I showed you this the first day. Anybody that gets this, I would. What can I get? Do you eat buns? Please give me one step at a time. Give me one step. Just give me instructions. What should I do? You need to tell me what it is called, though. I don't know what it's called. It's
just can you type on your command line units? Yes.
Units. Type on my command line. Type units, and then it comes out the drawing unit, right? So we have on the Samsung scale, we have inches, right? So we have inches. We can decide that, okay, we are working with millimeters. So we are not working on inches scale, we are working with millimeters or meters. Either one of them, we can select meters or millimeters. I'm going to be using millimeters for this my design. And then I'm going to be setting the precision to 2 decimal places. Let me even use O number. And I click on what? OK. Right? Yeah. Immediately I'm done. Let me start my rectangle command again. Look at my options. On my crosshair, what is following my crosshair? You can see that what I have there is O number. Yeah. I'll click on escape again. I'll right click, go to my recent input, go to my unit, change from my own number, change it to 2 decimal place. I'll click on OK. Go to my line command again. Can you see now I have the 2 decimal place showing?
Yeah.
So we set unit before we start designing. That's the first thing. You set your drawing unit. If you are working on millimeters, set your millimeters. Even if you are working on inches, set your inches. If you are working your meter scale, set your meter scale, if that's what you want to use. Is it making sense? So far so good. We've spoken about creating basic shape, imputing data, creating basic objects, rectangle, lines, the polyline, the circle, the arc, the rectangle. We still have more of them on the draw panel that we've not even spoken about. The ellipse and polygon, we have not spoken about both of them, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what I want to show us here before we round up is we are talking about inputting data, creating basic shape, using object snap, using polar tracking and polar snap. We are using object snap tracking as well. We have done that, and working with units. We will explain that as well. So I said before we round up on this draw panel, I would like to mention just one of the two before we round up, which is called the what? The one below our rectangle, which is called the polygon tool. But to explain this properly, I'll close this design. I don't want to save. I'll close whatever we've done here so far. I don't want to save. What I want to do is I want to open. And this time I'll locate the other third file that I will be working with today, which is called the polygons. Can you see the polygons? I'll enter into that. Immediately I click on enter, it shows this drawing for me. Can you see that? What am I trying to do here? There is a polygon that has already been drawn here. Can you see that? This polygon was drawn using line segment. This is using line segment, right? This is not a polygon, because the polygon is supposed to be seen as one, right? But we all know that this is a polygon shape, right? So let me delete. I'll delete what we have here. Are you with me? I want to create a polygon around this object. Later I go to my rectangle, I click on the drop down tool, I see polygon. I click on polygon. It's the first question it asks me is that please enter the number of sides. We all know that polygon have sides that we can work with. Let's create something like five sides. What should I call? Let's create octagon then. Let's create eight sides. I click on enter. After entering the number of sides, as my polygon be created, no, it's asking me to specify the center of the polygon. Are you with me? It's asking me to specify the center of polygon. Then I'll track. Using the center point of this circle, I'll click to create the center point. After clicking on the center point, it shows these two options for me. Can you see inscribe in a circle or circumscribe?
Circumscribe.
Do you know the contrast? Do you understand the difference between the two?
Yes. One is the polygon is inside and one is outside.
Thank you very much. That's just English. So, but there are two options that you use to know the difference between the two. I'll click on the inscribe. When I use my inscribe, can you see it's telling me to specify the radius of my circle? Are you with me? It's telling me to specify the radius of this my polygon, rather. Of this my polygon. It's telling me to specify the radius. Please notice, using my inscribe, I'm starting from the center point of that polygon to the tip of the edge. Can you see where it is aligning the measurement? To the tip of the knot. Do you understand me? Now, let me enter a measurement in mind. I'll enter something called, let's use 1. And you can see how big this thing is. Right? I want something inside that same design. So I'll go to my polygon. Number of sides, 8. Specify the center point. I'm using the same inscribe. I want it to be inside this section here. So I want the measurement to be, let's say, 0.3. So I'll go ahead to make it 0.3. And then I have this. Are you with me? Let's create another one. Let's create another polygon this time. I'll go to my polygon command again. What number of sides? I'm creating 8. The same 8. I'll click on enter. Specify the center point. I'm still using this same center point here, but I'm using the second method, which is called the circumscribe. Unlike the other one, is it to the tip or to the side? You can see that it's different. You can see that it's different, right? Yeah. So I want to enter the radius of this one. I'm going to use the same radius for the first one, which is what? 0.3, right? 0.3. I click on enter. Is it the same size? No. Please don't make that mistake. The questions you'll be getting after the class from Polygon might be very trickish. You think you'll be using the end instead of using the side of the polygon. Are you with me? Are you with me? There are three methods. There are three methods of creating polygon. We have spoken about the first one, which is what? Using the what? The inscribe or circumscribe, right? But there is a third one. I'm creating a polygon again. Number of sides is 8. I'll specify my center point. Can you see inscribe in a circle or circumscribe? Those are the first one. That's not what I want to do now. Let me go back to my polygon. Number of sides is 8. Before specifying my center point, look at my status bar. Can you see something called edge? Can you see something called edge? If I want to activate that edge, I can just right click now and go to what? Edge. Can you see edge here? When I click on edge, it will still ask me to specify my center point. But I don't want my center point this time. Whenever I want to use my edge command, that means I want to create a polyline. I'm going to use the second design for my edge. I'll start from this first point, and then I'll use the second edge. Is it making sense? To be sure, how many sides do we have for this polygon that is here? 6. Thank you very much. So I go to my polyline now. I'll change the number of sides to what? 6. And then we are trying to create an hexagon using the what? Edge command. I'll right click again to select my what? Edge. So I'll select the first edge and the second edge. Am I able to create the polygon exactly as what we have in this design? Yeah. Do we understand the clear contrast between the three?
Yeah, I prefer inscribe and circumscribe. For instance, if there's no edge and you want to just draw the polygon, but you don't have an edge to take as reference, how are we going to, for instance, delete that edge?
Okay.
Is it possible for us to use edge to draw a polygon, considering if we are drawing a fresh polygon?
Without a reference?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'll just go to my polyline and number of sides 6, and then I'll just need to enter the first edge. Sorry, I didn't select my edge. Go to my polyline, number of sides 6, and then I'll right click to select what? Edge. Remember, when I select edge, it's telling me to what? Specify first endpoint. I'll click to specify first endpoint, specify second endpoint, and then I'll click to specify if I know the length. If I know the length of this edge, I can actually enter a length in mind. If I have 10 in mind, I'll type 10. And then it will be the length. So if I go to my dimension now and go to measure, go to what? Distance. I select this endpoint to this endpoint. What is the distance? Fantastic. 10 millimeters. Thank you very much. Who is with me? Are we making sense so far? Please. This is a mechanical design of where the product is passing through. What is it called? It's just.
Oh, this they call it like in inquiry. We call it
So it's like different point, but we have objects moving from one point to another using there's kind of a motion that picks object from here that goes on. I don't know. I've forgotten the name. But you can see what we have here, right?
Yeah.
Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So that rounds up the section for today. Do you have questions?
You're going to share the video with us.
Fine. Of course, I'll do that. Immediately after this section. I'll start extracting.